James Flint, 155164.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for James Flint, 155164. He is serving 30 months for larceny of a motor vehicle for first offense. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of June 23rd, 2024. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan. It has been reviewed and shows that the offender has not completed any programs. However, he is currently employed in the kitchen. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score on the SRT falls within the very high range of risk of recidivism. This is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may be added.
Well, good afternoon to start with. And I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak for myself. I'm basically just going to say the same thing I said to the parole officer that came to interview me for the package. I'm asking for help. I need help. I'm asking for help. I've been incarcerated for a very long time, for most of my life, most of my adult life. And due to that, I have used drugs to deal with my inability to live life on the outside. The good thing that I can say is that I haven't given up yet. When I am released, there are times when I do make bad decisions, but there are also times that I've made some good decisions. And I'm hoping to have an opportunity to follow the same track that I had when I had approximately 2 years clean and sober.
Is that it, Mr. Flynn? Are you done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Give me 1 second. I'm writing something down.
Yep.
Okay. So what's going to happen now is panel's going to ask you some questions. And when we're done, we're going to discuss your case and come up with a decision on whether you should have discretionary parole today or not. Okay.
Yes, sir. Can I say one thing?
Sure.
I'm not sure if the panel is aware that I'm currently on special parole as well.
I think I did have that down here. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And those were some of my concerns, right? That this happened while on special parole, and that you have as you said earlier, you have a very lengthy history.
Yes.
Of a variety of different kinds of offenses. And not only that, but a long list of escape and absconding and those kinds of offenses, which concerns me about releasing. Now, you've had 19 different community releases, 18 of them of which were not successful. I mean, if I look at this, you know, you haven't done any programming in this particular incarceration, correct?
Well,
You haven't done any of this one.
it's hard to answer that only because this particular situation, I'm still on the same sentence because I initially came back as a special parole violation. I've done all the programs that I had to do.
That's my other concern, that you've done in other situations. You've done a lot of programming already, and none of it, so far as we can tell, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, has impacted your situation in a way that allowed you to be able to live on the outside without getting into trouble.
Well, that's why I did mention earlier, I wanted to follow the same blueprint that I followed in the past, where I had almost 2 years clean.
What was that blueprint?
I had parole officer Lindley was my PO, and I was attending outpatient. I had a sponsor. I was attending outpatient at the Wheeler Clinic in Hartford.
Uh-huh.
I was taking the Vivitrol shot, which curbs your cravings. I was doing about 4 days a week of counseling during the day, and then 7 days a week at night, I was doing NA meetings. I was doing 12-step work. I was receiving mental health treatment, and I was on medication. That was probably the only time during that time where I had that like amount of clean time where I was doing that much work. It was the one time where I actually was successful. I had a car, driver's license, job, credit cards. I actually learned how to live my life with the help of the Wheeler Clinic. And towards the end of that, it actually got to the point where the CEO of the Wheeler Clinic, I believe her name at the time was Susan Walkova. She asked me to make a video, a recovery-based video for the Wheeler Clinic. And I made a 3.5-minute video of how I had changed my life after serving most of my life in prison. So I know I can do it. But every other time that I've tried, I didn't do it in that way.
Yeah. Well, what happened that didn't work out after the 2 years?
Well, one thing I've always struggled with is responsibility. And the longer that I stayed in recovery and I was doing good, more responsibility was coming into my life, things that I never addressed before, because I've been in since the age of 16 years old, basically. So
what does that mean? You were having to pay rent, having to pay bills, normal kinds of responsibilities?
Bills, yes, but rent, I was living with my family, so we're doing it like a little bit at a time. It was when I started working, to be honest with you. When I started working, I got a credit card, and I had to start doing things on my own that I never did before, and I panicked. And once I panicked, I made a bad decision, like I've done most of my life, and I've been regretting it since.
Well, I'm trying to like visualize like what changes if you come out, and let's say you do get into that role where you start to become successful with all the programming that you're going to have to do on the outside, and you're faced with responsibilities again.
Well,
what gets you beyond that to become successful?
I don't know if you know too much about recovery or addiction or whatever, but there's a term in recovery called hitting rock bottom. And every individual has their own rock bottom. Some people don't hit it. Some people end up dying to their addiction, which in this case.
Well, you almost did, right? Did you OD? How many times you OD? 20 times?
I OD'd 20 times in the last 3 months that I was out there.
If you hadn't hit rock bottom.
I'm there now, sir. After this happened, my family has washed their hands of me. And I have nobody to blame but myself. I own that. I accept it. But I've got to the point where I still want to live. I still want to fight and I want to get this one of these days.
But you haven't gone into any other programming since you've been there this time.
I've been working for the last 11 months.
I know you've been working. Other than that, you haven't done any additional programming besides.
I've never been asked to.
Well, I mean, you need to be asked to. You have. I mean, why would you need to be asked? You know you need programming, right? What kind of programming do you need? You know already. Why aren't you just advocating for yourself to, to reach out?
Because the waiting list in here is so long. Unless you really need it, and they contact you and tell you you have to do it,
you don't think you really need it?
Honestly, not in here. There's nothing that I can learn from any of these programs in here that I haven't already done.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. You haven't already done.
It would be wasting someone else's bed or someone else's time, which is why I said
it hasn't
which
worked.
is why I said the one time that it did work. And the reason why I said that is because I have multiple issues, not just my addiction, but even living in society. When I was getting treatment through the Wheeler Clinic, I was working on both of those things at the same time. And I believe that is the reason why I had almost 2 years clean. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, and I hear what you're saying. I just don't get some of what you're saying. I don't understand it because, I don't know how, if we have to consider your suitability for coming out, I don't know how we do that without any kind of basis of feeling comfortable that when you come out, you're going to be able to survive and do what's right. Right now, I'm not hearing that. I'm not in a place right now where I'm hearing from you that, putting you back out on the street makes a lot of sense because you're not even trying to attempt to get any programming while you're in there. What happens when you're free out here? And, so for me, it's kind of, I want you to be honest with you. I'm very challenged with that right now. And I want to be able to do something to help you out, but I don't know that it's, that having you out on the street is the best thing for you at this point. And you're not advocating for yourself inside.
If I could be honest as well, and this is something that I said to the officer that's in my package, continued incarceration isn't the answer either, sir.
But I have to consider public safety and those, safety of other people on the outside and your own.
That's the reason.
Yeah, your risk of ending up back inside again.
Very high.
So, I right now, so I'm not kind of in a good spot with this. I'm going to listen to some of the other questions and then I'll go from there. But thank you for answering my questions right now. I appreciate it. And I thank you for your honesty about your situation. Madam Turner?
So, Mr. Flint, when you were released in December of 2022, why did you abscond within a month? They were, you had the supportive services of special parole. Why did you disappear?
It kind of goes along the line of what I was just saying to this gentleman. At that time, I was currently in a timeout. My parole officer was Parole Officer McHugh. Towards the end of my timeout, we were getting ready for me to be released. And I had a sponsor. I was going to go live with my family again. And I had that same blueprint of going back to the Wheeler Clinic where it had worked. And she wanted to let me go to the sponsor. She wanted me to go back to the Wheeler Clinic. She was working with my counselor there. They were having conversations on a daily basis.
I'm asking about why you absconded from supervision.
And I'm trying to get to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
because her supervisor would not let me go to my sponsor and go to the Wheeler Clinic. She wanted me to do.
It's everybody else's fault. So within 2 months of absconding, you committed a new crime. And now you sit here and say, you're asking for help. And you're not willing to take the programs. You don't think you could benefit from them. And you think your sentence was unfair. I counted on your 10 years of special parole sentence, 6 absconding and 4 technical violations. So 30 years sounds pretty 30 months sounds pretty reasonable to me. So why did you take your parents' car? They didn't give you permission.
No, they didn't.
So how was it borrowing if you didn't have permission?
Because I had every intention of returning it. I wasn't planning on just taking the car.
Okay, but while you had it, it was stolen. But if you'd have returned it, it was just borrowed. Is that the thinking?
Yeah.
Do you hear that? Do you hear what's so flawed about that?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. I wish I saw you helping yourself, sir. And, you've made the choice not to do that over and over and over again. You have been afforded supervision in the community 19 times, and you've been unsuccessful 18. I don't know that I've seen a record like that, but I want to give you credit, no DRs this period, and you're working in the kitchen. I hope you're able to tuck away a little bit of money while you're doing that. Do you still owe somebody $1,400?
Not that I'm aware of.
From the police report. Okay, I have no more questions, Mr. Chair.
Hey, Paul,
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Flynn, I don't know if you can hear this or not, but reason why I got put on this board was because I've been in recovery for about 40 years. And what's going on right here is you're fighting for your right to die because you're not accepting help, right? It's not working out there and it's not working in here, right? Good job on taking a job while you're in and sticking with it. But you and I both know that addiction is an everyday thing, right?
Yes.
So what are we doing inside to stay connected, right? Because when you step out the front door, it's not going well. How many times did you die the last time around?
One.
Right? How long is it going to be before the Narcan doesn't get there in time? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It can be different. I mean, 53 years old, right? Is that what I
Yes.
read?
Yes.
It's not too late to turn it around. But you got to ask for the help that you need while you're inside so that you can take it outside. I mean, I just, based upon what you said, I just look back at your last fight. What I have today, you haven't really given me anything to work with outside of they maintain the job for X amount of months. I want people to come in here and be able to go out there and be successful and find recovery so they don't have to keep ending up where you're sitting. I really do. So, I mean, I hope you can hear that, and I hope that you can reach out. You're at Carl Robinson. You probably know the lay of the land. And
Well,
there's,
I'd like to add something to what you just said. And
And again, I feel like I'm a broken record, but when you think you've seen it all, can you imagine bringing up the Louisiana as just the biggest example that I can refer this to, and seeing how these different states handle these type of criminals? He's had 19 community releases. See, in Louisiana, on his third one, he'd be locked up as an habitual offender for life. And I think what is fascinating about this is just seeing the two different approaches, two extremes. Louisiana, it's like 3 strikes, you're out, and then they have made more leniencies. They have acts and different policies to help people get a second chance after being locked away for life. But still, you would have only certain many arrests. This guy is 19 and he's failed 18. So it's like seeing the example, the extreme opposite of how crazy it is. It's really just this merry-go-round of, I mean, it's just it's I guess the simple answer is what is the answer? I mean, is there an answer for this? And it's almost like the parole board member said, I think he said, you're pleading for a chance to die. That's what you're asking for. I really enjoyed the way the parole board handled this. I thought that they kind of had a sense of humor. I think it was sarcasm. I can't tell when the guy's like, I really what's he say, James? He says, I've learned everything I can in here. And the board member's like, yeah, okay, I see. And I'm learning about these board members more. The man, he was brought in as a because his expertise is like recovery. He's like a Mr. Mirabella. Not in the sense, I think if Mr. Mirabella was in here, Mr. Mirabella really would have. I wish Mr. Mirabella was here to give him a piece of really. I mean, they would have just sent him back. They would have probably. I don't know what they would have done actually. But the idea is he's like, look, I'm on work release. I need the money. I'm just going to take the money. It's like, okay, man. So you'll have the money. Guess what? You're going to get out of prison, and that money is going to be gone so fast. It's going to be right into your habit. And like they said, when is it? What it was just fascinating to hear him. It was like, how many times did you die last time you're out? One. It was like just one. I only died once. I think this is just insight. And the crazy thing is too, is that, and there goes the lawnmower, the sentences that he gets, it continues slap on the wrist. I mean, his maximum sentence from beginning to end, he was sentenced on June 12, 2023, and his maximum date, 9/22/2025. It's just a couple years, and his special parole ends 2026. I mean, remember, he was revoked on special parole when he picked up these new charges, and it's just, there's really just two outcomes that we can see here, and it's, is he going to lose his life, or is he going to get locked back up? And in my opinion, just allowing this cycle to continue is crazy. It's just as crazy as locking someone up for life because they had 3 felonies of possession over a 10-year period in Louisiana. But I don't, it's like, can you not find a median? Can you not find something that makes sense? And the thing is that I don't know if we ever can. The way that the systems work, it's like this pendulum that always swings from one extreme to the other, because I think it's just the way that politics works. It's like people get sick of too much crime, so then someone lobbies to get votes on being hard on crime, and then they all of a sudden they wake up and their prisons are full, and they're on the top of the charts for incarceration. So then the next person lobbies and says, we're going to let everyone free. And then, what happened in Louisiana just recently? Here's interesting. Google actually recommended this to me. It's always nice when Google actually makes a recommendation that you're interested in, right? And Louisiana still leads the nation for state prisoners held in local jails, right? Local jails. Now you might say, I wonder why. And for us, it seems to be, it makes actually a lot of sense. Remember, prison is where you get sent away for a long time. Jail is where you're being held when you're in between prison or release. And what's going to happen when all of a sudden you pass all this legislation to get inmates out of prison, all these paroles and all of this, right? Well, then they get rearrested and they spend more time in jail. So it's just this pendulum that swings, and probably the new governor is going to come in and say, we're going to make it so that there's less people in jail. And then you just fill up the prisons again. More half of Louisiana prisoners in state custody are serving their time in local jails rather than state facilities. Recently, federal data shows. As of 2022, more than 14,000 or 53% of prisoners under the jurisdiction of Louisiana Department of Public Safety and Corrections were in local jails, the highest rate in the country, according to a report. The only states that came in close to Louisiana, according to the data, were Kentucky at 47% in local jails, Mississippi at 33%, and other major states are less than 10%. Louisiana has for decades relied on parish sheriffs to supplement state prisons with local jail capacity to avoid overcrowding in state prisons. But it's And you can see it here, how we got here. They talk about the dates and how things changed. And it's an interesting article. I'll drop it in the description. But I think it's just part of the bigger problem. It's just the way that our system works. People at the top are always looking to move the needle in their short-term interests. It's not about solving long-term problems. And I don't know how you possibly could solve these problems. I'm not claiming to know, but it's very clear from seeing this case, that it is just a waste, just a huge waste on society, on taxpayer dollars. It brings down everything and everybody. Think about all the cost just to have him really, and I think, make a mockery of the system. He doesn't even want to get help. And it is sad, but at the same time, we can't just, things just can't be run this way. But anyways, that's my 2 cents. And thank you, Richard, for the info. And with that, I'll move to the next one and let you go.